My daughter arrived with her husband's family, already packed to stay, saying, "This is my new life, and we'll be here for a while." I stood there holding a dish towel, too stunned to remember the next breath. My name is Marin Cole. I am 68. I had expected a quiet afternoon, nothing more than reheating leftover soup and folding laundry. But when I heard the knock, 3 firm, confident taps, I knew instinctively it was not a neighbor. The air felt different, charged in a way my house had not felt for years. When I opened the door, Ayla stood on the porch with Darren beside her, and behind them were his parents, each holding suitcases. Real suitcases, the kind meant for a long stay. One of them even had a bedding roll strapped on top. Ayla stepped forward first. Her smile was tight, practiced, as if she had rehearsed something on the way here. "Mom, let us come in. We need to talk." They stepped in cautiously, giving me a moment to react. Though their intent to stay was clear, my hallway suddenly felt smaller, the walls closer. The quiet of the house swallowed by new voices and the rustling of luggage wheels across my floor. Darren's mother looked around with a kind of polite curiosity, as though she was touring a rental she was thinking of signing for. His father set down a heavy bag and wiped his brow like he had crossed a desert to get here. Ayla didn't look at any of that. She looked only at me. "This is my new life," she said, her voice steady in a way that made my stomach tighten. "And they will live here now." For a moment, time didn't move. The words sat between us, heavy and final, as if she had spoken something irreversible. I took in her face the determination, the strange hardness around her mouth, and I felt something inside me shift. This was not a request. It was a decision she believed she had the right to make. Behind her, Darren picked up a suitcase as though expecting directions. His parents waited quietly, uncertain but hopeful. Ayla's eyes flicked toward the hallway, toward the bedrooms she had grown up in. And just like that, the day she walked in became the day everything changed, carrying me straight into a conversation I never imagined having with my only child. Ayla walked deeper into the living room as if reclaiming a space she had never owned. Darren stayed close behind her, his shoulders tense, while his parents hovered near the doorway, unsure of where to place themselves. I closed the door slowly, letting the click settle into the silence. "Ayla," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "What exactly is going on?" She turned, folding her arms. "I already told you. This is my new life. Darren and I talked about it for weeks. His parents talked about it too. Moving here makes sense. For all of us." Darren cleared his throat. "It's temporary," he murmured. "Just until Ayla cut him off." "No, not just temporary. We were hoping you'd consider letting us stay a few days while we sort things out." She faced me again. "We're staying." Her words landed sharp. Not cruel, but absolute. It was the tone she used when she believed she was making the only sensible decision in the room. I stepped closer. "Ayla, you don't just arrive with 4 people and declare they live here." Her jaw tightened. "I'm your daughter. You raised me to survive. I'm doing that. You're deciding for me," I said quietly. Darren's mother, Linda, spoke up then, her voice soft. "We don't want to intrude." "Marin, we just didn't have many choices left." Ayla shot her a look meant to silence. But Linda's words had already shifted something in the air. "What choices?" I asked. Darren shifted his weight like he wished he could disappear. "We needed a place to land," he said. "That's all." Ayla stepped closer to me. "Mom, please don't make this harder. We're already here. We've already talked it through." Her voice thinned, brittle at the edges. "I'm doing what's best for my family." I held her gaze. "But you didn't ask what was best for me." Her expression flickered annoyance. Fear? Something else beneath it. But she pushed forward. reaching for a suitcase. "We're staying," she repeated, softer but still final. Still. And in that moment, I understood that she came here already, certain I wouldn't stop her. Ayla dragged one of the suitcases toward the hallway, moving with a confidence she hadn't earned. I stepped in front of her, blocking the path. "Ayla, stop," I said. "You can't just settle in without talking to me." She sighed like I was the unreasonable one. "Mom, you always helped me. You always understood." "I'm asking for the same now. It doesn't look like asking," I said quietly. Her expression tightened. "You know how hard things have been. You know what I've gone through." I did. I remembered all of it. I remembered her calls over the years. From rent troubles to medical bills, I helped whenever I could, believing it was temporary. The car repair that somehow turned into another repair a month later. The sudden job loss that lasted almost 2 years. Every time, I stepped in. I always convinced myself it was temporary. "You've helped me before," she said, voice softening. "You never made me feel guilty. I didn't want you to feel alone," I replied. "And I'm not," she said quickly, "because I have you." Darren stood near the entryway, rubbing the back of his neck. "Marin, Ayla told us you were fine with us coming here," he said. "She said you insisted." Ayla spun toward him. "Darren, don't start. I told you she always supports me." I stared at her. That isn't what support looks like. A flicker of panic crossed her face, but she smothered it fast. "Mom, please, I'm exhausted. We're exhausted. Let's just get settled and talk later." Linda stepped a little closer, hesitant. "We can contribute something. Marin, groceries, chores, whatever helps." Ayla shot her another warning look, but Linda didn't back away. "You've relied on me for a long time," I said to Ayla. "Too long." Ayla shook her head. "I just need you to be who you've always been." I felt the ache of those words, how heavy that expectation truly was, as she reached for the suitcase again. By evening, the rhythm of my home already felt unfamiliar. Linda moved through the kitchen like she had a silent checklist, opening drawers, shifting plates, setting aside spices she didn't like. "Your pans are a little worn, Marin," she said gently. "I thought I'd help organize while you rested." "They work fine," I replied. She smiled, but her hands kept rearranging. In the living room, Darren's father, Hank, plugged in a phone charger and settled into my recliner. "This chair's sturdy," he said. "I can help adjust it if you like." "It doesn't need tightening," I said. He nodded, as if he hadn't heard me. Ayla entered then, carrying a stack of folded towels she'd taken from my linen closet. "Mom, we're putting these in the guest room. Darren's parents need space." "You didn't ask," I said. She looked at me with mild frustration, the kind she used when I interrupted her momentum. "Mom, come on. It's just towels." Darren approached, rubbing his hands together. We were thinking the dining room might work better if we move the table closer to the window. More space for everyone. "No one touches my table," I said. He stepped back immediately, but Ayla didn't. "Mom," she whispered sharply, "you're making this harder." Linda paused from where she was reorganizing my spice rack. "We're trying to make the house comfortable for all of us." "Marin!" Hank stretched his legs out, taking up more space. "Yeah. We'll settle in tonight. Tomorrow we'll get the rest of our things." My chest tightened. One night, and the house felt like it was slipping from my hands. Ayla glanced around like she was assessing what to adjust next. I found Ayla alone in the kitchen, standing at the counter with her arms braced against it, like she was preparing for a fight long before I opened my mouth. "Ayla, we need to talk," I said. She didn't turn. "I know what you're going to say, Mom, and I'm already tired." "I haven't said anything yet." She faced me then, eyes sharp. "You're upset because everything's changing, but I need stability. Darren needs stability. His parents need it too. You walked into my home with 4 people, I said softly. "That isn't asking for stability, that's taking it." Ayla's jaw clenched. I've struggled for years, you know that. One thing after another. You helped me because you understood. This isn't different. It is different. I said, you didn't ask. You decided. Her voice rose. Mom, I deserve a life that doesn't fall apart every few months. I deserve somewhere safe. I deserve support. You're talking about a right, I replied. Not help. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You think I don't know how much you've done. I do, but I'm your daughter. You don't turn your back on your own child when she finally needs more than a quick fix. What you're asking isn't small. Ayla, it's survival. She snapped. And you can give it. You always have. I felt something inside me shift, an old ache. Familiar and heavy. You're not hearing me, I said. And you're not letting me breathe. She fired back. I'm tired of scraping by. I'm tired of starting over. I'm choosing what's best for my family. And right now, that means being here. She waited for me to bend, the way I always had. Her certainty pressed against me like a weight I couldn't lift. By the next morning, tension moved through the house like a draft no one wanted to acknowledge. Hank stood in the kitchen doorway holding my coffee mug. This one's chipped, he said. I'll pick up a new set when we go out. It's fine, I answered. He set it down anyway. As if the decision belonged to him. Linda was at the table scrolling through her phone. Darren, that company you applied to called again. She said. They said they still don't have an opening. Darren stiffened. Mom, don't talk about that right now. Ayla shot him a quick look. We don't need to bring that up. I turned toward her. You told me Darren found a stable job. Ayla's eyes flashed annoyance. I said he was working on it. Darren rubbed his forehead. Mom, please don't start. Linda sighed. I'm not starting anything. But Marin deserves to know what's going on. Ayla snapped. I thought you didn't need to worry right now. But we can explain more if you want. The room changed then, quiet. Brittle. Linda set her phone down carefully. I spoke slowly. Ayla, if something happened with his job, I need to understand the situation. Darren exhaled. I was laid off 3 months ago. Ayla stepped in front of him. We were handling it. By moving into my house without telling me I asked. Her voice sharpened. Mom, don't twist this. You know how expensive everything is. We didn't have time to waste. Hank crossed his arms. Rent's impossible these days. We couldn't stay where we were. I looked at him. What do you mean, couldn't stay? He hesitated, then glanced at Linda. She answered for him. We fell behind and tried to handle it quietly, hoping to avoid troubling you. Darren nodded reluctantly. We were evicted. Marin, 2 weeks ago. Ayla's face hardened. And that's why we're here. We needed a real plan, a real home. I felt the truth settle like stones in my chest. Layer after layer of what she chose not to say. And I saw clearly that this wasn't about one emergency. It was about everything she'd decided I didn't need to know. The afternoon unraveled faster than any of us could keep up with. Linda stood beside the dining table, fingers twisting around one another, her voice strained in a way I hadn't heard before. Marin, she said quietly, there's something you need to know. Ayla lifted her head sharply. Linda, don't. But Linda continued, her eyes fixed on me. We didn't come expecting to stay. Ayla said you might be okay if we did. She said you insisted we stay with you until we got back on our feet. My breath caught. Invited Ayla stepped between us. I said you'd understand. I never said. You said she begged us not to worry, Linda said, her voice shaking now. You said she promised we'd have a room ready before we even packed the car. Darren stared at Ayla, his face draining of color. Ayla, you told my parents that your mom planned this. Ayla's jaw tightened. I told them what they needed to hear so they'd agree to come. You know how scared they were. Scared because we were evicted, Hank muttered. Scared because we had nowhere left to go. Ayla whirled toward him. I told you we had options, and we did. Mom was the only logical one. I felt something inside me flinch. You didn't ask. Her shoulders stiffened. Asking would have given you the chance to panic. You always overthink. I needed a solution. Ayla, Darren said quietly. You lied to all of us. She spun toward him, eyes bright with fear and fury. I did what I had to do. My family needed somewhere safe. Mom has space. She has stability. I wasn't dragging us into another motel. Linda pressed her hand to her chest. We never would have come like this if we knew she didn't invite us. Ayla's voice cracked. I knew she'd cave. She always caves. This time, I didn't. The last thread of trust that held us together snapped cleanly inside me as her words echoed through the room. She had chosen the outcome long before she arrived. She just never expected me to stand in her way. Ayla stood frozen in the middle of the dining room, breathing hard, eyes sharp with the kind of panic that comes when a plan stops working. Darren hovered beside her, unsure whether to reach for her or step away. Linda and Hank stayed near the hallway. Quiet now, their certainty unraveling. I steadied myself, letting the silence settle. Then I spoke plainly. You are all leaving my house. Ayla blinked once, then twice. No, she said. No, Mom, don't do this. I'm not doing anything, I replied. You made choices. I'm making mine. Her voice cracked into a higher pitch. We have nowhere to go, you know that. I know what you told them, I said, and I know what you didn't tell me. Darren stepped forward. Marin, can we talk calmly? We are talking calmly, I said, but the answer won't change. Ayla's face flushed deep red. Mom, you don't understand how bad things are. You don't get how much we've dealt with. You kept saying you wanted me to be honest, and this is me being honest. Honesty isn't what brought you here. I said, a decision you made without me did. She shook her head so fast her hair fell across her cheeks. Don't make this harder. I can't do this right now. I can't uproot everyone again. You already uprooted them, I said, by lying, by assuming, by deciding for me. She jabbed a finger at her chest. I'm your daughter, and I'm your mother, I answered. But that doesn't mean you get to take my life and rearrange it. A raw, wounded sound escaped her. You're choosing them over me. I'm choosing myself, I said. Her scream tore through the room. You can't throw your own child out. Darren flinched. Linda closed her eyes. Hank looked at the floor. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move. I need you all to leave tonight. We'll discuss support for essentials later, but the living arrangement cannot continue as it is. Ayla's lips trembled. You're abandoning me. No, I said softly. I'm finally stopping the part where I abandon myself. She stared at me like she didn't recognize the woman standing in front of her in that moment. I felt something settle inside my chest, something steady, something long overdue. Whether I lost my daughter that night or stepped back into the person I should have been, that would reveal itself with time. The house went quiet the moment the door closed behind them. Not peaceful, just hollow. I stood there for a long moment, listening to the silence they left behind, until my phone vibrated in my pocket. Ayla's first message came before they even reached the car. You didn't have to do this. Then another. You ruined everything. I can't believe you'd turn your back on me. A third followed seconds later. I hope you're happy. We have nowhere. I typed nothing. My hands trembled, but not from doubt, just exhaustion. A few minutes later, Darren texted, Marin, I'm sorry. I didn't know she told my parents you invited us. I thought you two planned this together. Another message, I don't think she meant to hurt anyone. She's just scared. His confusion seeped through every word. I could almost hear him pacing somewhere, trying to understand a wife he loved but didn't fully know. Then Linda's message appeared. Please forgive us. We thought we were coming to a safe place, not taking one. If we'd known, we never would have arrived like that. I'm sorry for the stress we caused. I read her words twice. kindness, even in the middle of a mess that wasn't hers to carry. Another burst from Ayla lit the screen. You chose strangers over your own daughter. I feel abandoned. Please don't contact me for now. Each message struck in a different direction. Anger, blame, desperation. But all of them came from the same place the moment she realized I wouldn't bend for her anymore. I set the phone down, letting it buzz against the table until the sound faded into the quiet. The house was still hollow, but something in me felt painfully, undeniably clear. I hadn't lost a daughter I never stopped loving, but I had finally stepped out of the shape she kept trying to force me into. The days after they left felt strange, like the house was inhaling after being held too tightly. I moved slowly through each room, touching the edges of chairs, counters, door frames, relearning what it felt like to have my own rhythm again. One morning, while trimming the lavender in my garden, my neighbor Carol leaned over the fence. "Haven't seen your daughter around," she said gently. "She's taking space." I answered, "I'm taking some too." Carol nodded. "About time you did." Over the next few weeks, I began joining a small community group at the library, women my age, some older, learning slowly how to reclaim pieces of ourselves we'd handed away too easily. During one meeting, I admitted, I don't know how to stop fixing things that aren't mine. The therapist smiled kindly. "You just did." A week later, Ayla sent one more message, not an apology, just a short update about where they were staying. I read it twice, then replied with a simple, "I hope you're safe." I didn't offer money. I didn't offer solutions. I didn't offer my home. It was the first time I loved her without losing myself in the process. In the evenings, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, letting the quiet settle in the way it never could before. If my story reached you, make sure to like, comment, or subscribe. Your voice keeps these stories alive. Have you ever had to choose peace over family? Share your story below.